Hello everyone, this is January 16th, 2013. I'm Roxanne Grinage. I'm a legal assistant, marketing, careers project manager, and sole proprietor owner of Pennsylvania registered companies and U.S. Department of Registered Internet Companies, HireLyrics Administrative Services, and we registered a company doing business as named for our administrative solutions tool, which we developed prototype working scale model, a solution for measuring individual accountability and innovating reform of U.S. economy, judicial accountability, education, prison, and public safety reform, lawfully and responsibly through innovation and utilizing the powerful collaboration, learning, shared learning, and sponsorship-free opportunity, advertising, media opportunities of the internet. The purpose of this video today, first I'd like to say happy birthday to my beloved sister, Melinda Grinage. Hi, Lindy. Okay. The purpose of this video today, I announced right around Christmas time that this year, 2013, I'm in the process of transitioning from my own 13-year demonstrated self-employment consultant professional service. I am credentialed, certified expert by Bureau of Contracts, Minority Businesswomen Enterprise, and I have other licenses and certifications for trademark and custom design. And I have several credentials and practice only what I am credentialed to do. So one of those credentials is evidence, one of those expert certifications is evidence gathering, depositions, and is legal services. Legal services as in terms of a legal support service. There are many legal support services. So as I said, the purpose for this video is to speak to my potential employers who would hire me full-time in a full-time employee commitment, permanent hopefully, where I would have a home and grow and demonstrate, make my demonstrable contribution to their community conscientious efforts. Maybe a unity of purpose law firm, whistleblower law firm, defense litigation, commercial litigation, intellectual property, or an investment banking firm, or human resources related. I'm skilled and experienced in all of those areas. So the purpose of this is to not talk about my invention of business method as much, which was nothing more than standard access, demonstrating using the internet technologies to set up a virtual front desk legal secretary virtual office where the claimant, who we call the disadvantaged creator of economy enriching work product contributions, the worldwide population disadvantaged creator, wasn't being able to be seen by the litigation industry, the qualified, credentialed attorneys, the licensed attorneys that were qualified to take on their cases and assess the merits of their case and contingent liability of their case, because this particular population, which we measured to be spanning every demographic and up to that point totally unmeasured, was struggling to make it from check to check, and many times didn't even know that they had legitimate claims and how to verbalize them. You know, their lyrics might have been ripped off or pirated, and they didn't realize that they didn't work for 2 years because they might have had a workers' compensation claim that never got assessed, or a Social Security disability appeal. And so they were this population was struggling with the market entry challenge of entering fairly the litigation industry as a market. So as I demonstrated the standard access, where the front desk legal secretary did nothing more but find out what pieces of components of information that the industry, that these claimants and career contributors were challenged for entering, and to develop the correct intake forms, not for the purpose of the legal secretary or the executive assistant taking action, but for referring it for identifying what the appropriate referral was. Was the appropriate referral an attorney? What type of practice area? Was it law enforcement? Was it a fraud report? Was it something to go back and revisit where legislations and law, House bills had been signed into law, and now this person's case applied to that? It might just be a matter of writing a letter to the ombudsman or whoever made the announcement in the news about we're going to overhaul our grievance system. Or like in the case of Alaska, House Representative Representative Cogill's House Bill 53 being signed into law in 2005 about how to interview children where there were accusations of sexual abuse, the forensic standards for interviewing a video and changing what was considered confidential and available to the public. Just maybe sometimes it was a matter of an administrative step, something a secretary could do, to send a letter with this person's client file, their data, to whoever responsibility it was in their work description, in their agenda, the U.S. Senate, maybe Judicial Accountability. You could send the claims of if the U.S. Senate, the Judicial Review Board, the committee on the U.S. Senate on the Judiciary Committee was reviewing a particular nominee, a judge, and by having this front desk legal secretary presentation, among other claims that were, as the claims were coming in, one of the complaints might have been about a judge in this particular jurisdiction, all right, a state court judge, or in this particular jurisdiction. That's just one. But if you have 2 and 3 and 4, now you see a pattern. And if you plug them in as incident reports, once verified, not just plug them in because someone said so, verify everything, and you plug it into a document that we call our administrative solutions tool, the U.S. Citizens Control Public Docket. You can look at those incident reports, all verified, and you can measure dates, you can measure individual accountability, you can measure who was willful, who was malicious, who actually embezzled, deliberately defrauded the child abuse registry fraud and reported someone, or who meant to take federal taxpayer dollars for their own pocket. You could measure incompetence. You could measure neglect. Everybody wasn't malicious and everybody wasn't corrupt. Some people just didn't want to fill out the form or they wanted to go home early, or it was a function of training, lack of training, not knowing or being resistant to new technologies that the firm, the employer had already invested a lot of money in, and they were looking for shortcuts and ways around it rather than learn a new technology, afraid of the technology. So it might have been a training issue. So anyway, the purpose of this video is to express to my employers, one, I want to thank the partner law firm that gave me the partner at a very prestigious law firm who gave me an interview. And interviewing is a skill. It's something like any other skill. We only get as good at it as we have an opportunity. So this person, I'm grateful, this partner, she asked me in defense litigation, product liability, construction equipment, trucker accidents, and so on, defense litigation. She asked me, what have I learned from what did I take away from my work, even though I'm ready to move on from being self-employed. I feel I've done all I can do to service the federal crime victim population created by official corruption, fraud, and civil rights. And I believe my contributions are more effectively made now to into the community through the firms and corporations and conscientious unity of purpose attorneys and law firms and whistleblower firms that are making class action changes, making changes about public safety, actually introducing and passing through legislation and having the resources to do that. She asked me, she said, what do you feel you took away from this? What do you feel you got from this? And I was able to realize that I actually learned social responsibility. I've always had an exemplary work ethic. I've always taken my employer's work seriously. I've always been professionally accomplished and personally accomplished and happy with who I am personally in terms of a mother, raised 3 children, a wife, and a daughter and a sister. But what I learned from this was social responsibility. That what we do really matters, and what we don't do really matters. In other words, it matters even more than being right. It's important to be right. It's important to verify. It's important to know the truth. But how you publish and expose the truth, you have to have your motives, you have to have correct motives. You have to be very aware of why you are publishing and telling the truth. It cannot be from a vindictive point of view. It cannot be from a punitive motive. It can't be because of a punitive reason why we're telling the truth. It has to be for documentation. It has to be for a reliable docket, case history, case study overview. It has to be for the sake of history, where someone else, a student, a grad student, a law school student, an MBA, someone who's studying environmental protection, somebody who's going to teach others about environmental protection. It's got to be a reference resource that can be counted on for being a standard of reliable, credible information as we evolve and preserve our society, reform our economy, reform education, make educational opportunities more aggressive so we as a nation can be competitive on the global market. And of course, lawfully and responsibly reform judicial accountability, prisons, and that all feeds into public safety that results in. So what I learned was social responsibility, that it's more important to protect someone's privacy or confidentiality than it is to blow your horn and say, look what I know, look what I discovered, look, I am right, you are wrong. Even if you are right, you have to see what are the consequences, who is going to have to pay the price for you exposing that, and how you expose it. So I learned after 2060, verified claims intake assessments by standard access of federal crime victims created by official corruption, fraud, and civil rights, that all referrals are not made posted to the internet. Most referrals to litigation, either class action litigation, individual attorney representation who chooses to take on the claims, or law enforcement or funding decision makers, are made with the data as due diligence transmitted to the person or entity, the federal agency, Department of Justice, Health and Human Services, Internal Revenue Service, Social Security Administration. These are where we make our referrals using their compliant forms. And I am most proud of the two things that I'm most proud of in terms of demonstrated administrative solution for the layperson, the non-attorney, the non-bar association attorney person, is the claimant, is the citizens layperson referral, where you can take jurisdictional specific claims, say we have these many in this county, we have these many in this county about this judge or this particular court, and we can actually send it now not just to the federal level in federal pro se lawsuits, we can actually refer it to our states' attorney generals and our legislatures, who can become special prosecutors and show them the need to prosecute, whereas that vehicle was not available to the layperson before. Only law enforcement, the U.S. attorney and the attorney generals can only take on investigations and act upon complaints made by courts and other law enforcement agencies, and sometimes people are complaining about the employees of some of the agencies. So we had our first 200 families referred, 200 family victims of Philadelphia Family Court deliberate legal malpractice and domestic relations matters referred to our U.S. attorney, our Pennsylvania Attorney General, and we included the candidates, because this is an evolution, societal evolution. Like anybody who's interested in public safety and protection of the public, these are all issues that they would deal with, so that they're concerned about. So we let them know as well that the citizens are trying to speak in a class voice without taking on a lawsuit, a civil rights lawsuit. But we said we have a probable cause reason here for why the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas, particularly the Family Division, should be investigated, not just because of the personal injuries being inflicted, because of legal malpractice decisions about custody and domestic relations matters and child support, but because of how it's defrauding the U.S. economy and siphoning away from U.S. economy enriching careers contributions, those contributions of medicine, technology, science, space travel, bioengineering, away from our economy into pedophilia, sex trafficking, self-destructive behaviors, early incarceration, alcoholism, addiction, runaway, homelessness, and so on.